Just some quick tips on Figma. You can hold Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, drag, and copy anything. So like a frame, a component, literally all the work we've ever done on Figma, we can literally make a copy of it just like that. We just select what we want, and then we drag and hold Option. So the point of that was just so that you can quickly make versions of things. For example, here, um, I did a quick version of oh no, that wasn't needed. Okay, I did a quick version of the current biomechanical issue design. Just make a copy, delete the, photo section. Oh no. Okay, delete, and then, oh, like these should be so low, there's nothing there, so yada yada yada, up. And boom, there's our next, okay, I don't know why that shifted it slightly, but you get the point, like, here's two versions, you can show it to someone, quickly talk about it. So versioning of something can be as simple as that. So what was so useful here? Okay, this box. So, you can make a shape, like any shape you want. Let's do a circle this time. Actually, no, a square is good. Or a rectangle. So you can, drag this, do radius. You can, like say, instead of copying the hex color, you can select the color that you've used elsewhere already. And, for consistency, you can add a stroke, you can customize it, inside, outside, you can drag this. This would be like example, an outside stroke. You can change the color. You can like, make it this color if you want. And then you can change transparency here. Or is it there? No, I'm selecting something else. Okay, yeah, here. And yeah, shadows are pretty cool. You can add a shadow simply, like the default one is just that. You have a shadow. Now there's a shadow under your shape. Whatever it was, it could have been a circle. And then you can customize that shadow. It can be coming from the top left, top right, etc. And it can like be higher or lower. Let's drag this and see. Let's drag this. So now there's like a huge shadow and it's like high off the page kind of look. You can increase the blur, make it look more like a real shadow, or make maybe the light source very sharp and then the shadows like that. I don't know what this is. Oh, this is like kind of like how close it is to the page and stuff as it relates to the light source. Okay, yeah. That's pretty cool. I haven't used that before. Yeah, okay, I'm recording. Okay, so yeah, Control G is a really important thing in Figma. So like, let's say, I make this form. Like, let's say I start from scratch. This is the text box. This is the other text box. And then these are like the photos in the bottom. Just kind of like abstractly forget like it's not, it's low fidelity, right? Now let's say I want to like move this, right? Like, like should I move them individually? Like I'm gonna mess up the spacing and the sizing and everything if I just move everything individually every time. And it's gonna take me, 1, 2, 3, 4 times as long to do something if I don't group it. So that's where grouping comes in. You just Control G. Now it's a group, right? Now it behaves as one object. And if you go to the side here, oh, and yeah, groups have some like weird things you can do, like, oh, I can adjust spacing of like the, these inner groups type of thing. So here on the side, group 37, you can name it whatever you want, double click, or you can go down, you can see the individual components inside them. And what if like, I don't know, this box you think is too close to this box? So instead of like ungrouping it, you can ungroup, Control Shift G. Now they're all different objects again. But you should not do that. If it's like a form, for example, you should just, okay, let's make this a group again. You have your group, you want to move this to here. All you do is double click the group, and now you're selecting the object inside the group, and you can move it relative to the group. Yeah, so now you're inside the group, you moved it, and now you can click outside of the group, and the group is still the group. So yeah, that just makes it really quick and easy to edit like things that are close together and not mess everything up and have to do stuff like a billion times. For example, this simple form has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, the background, like sub objects, I'd have to move individually all of them and realign them if I were to move them without a group. And this is just a very simple form. Imagine like a more complex component, for example. So yeah, groups are really powerful. Use them. Also, what's really interesting about Figma, well, not Figma, every like thing does this. So like, let's say we have these objects here, right?
Mhm.
Like this. I ungroup them. I Control Shift G. Now there's no group. They're ungrouped. What I can do with ungrouped objects, which is extremely useful, is literally like align them perfectly with a click of a button. Like, oh, there's no like, oh, I'm gonna drag them individually, hold shift so that they like lock to the axes they're on. Oh, that's another thing you can do. You can hold shift when you're dragging stuff to keep it on the same like X location if you're dragging it upward, or if you're dragging it sideways, you can hold shift to hold it at the same vertical like height as it was originally. So that's a really useful thing. But what I was trying to show you is that like ungrouped objects, you can literally align them. So you don't have to manually drag them all up like this. And if you're not holding shift, you move them up. Sure, they're aligned now, but they're not at the right horizontal position. So hold shift when you're trying to align things. Yeah. So that's like kind of alignment stuff, but that's just one example of these. Like explore them, check them out. Like, if you're designing stuff, like it'll just be super useful, make everything really quick. So like what does this say? Like if you hover over it for a while, it will tell you what it does. Align horizontal centers. Okay, so like it takes the center of every object based on how wide it is and just aligns them. Let's make them different colors. Let's make this one red, blue, green. Let's go black. Okay, so like, we can, let's make this like that. So we can align them like so. Like right now, this rectangle, the black one's on top of the other ones. You can like just, instead of like, actually, I don't know how else you would do this, but if you want to move something behind something or above, it's Command left for move back behind and right for move forward. So like, I want to make this one right. As you can see, the red triangle I've selected here is 18. Now it's above the 19th one, but the black one's on the top, so it's still behind. And then now it's at the top. So that's another really useful thing. Let's make this one a bit wider. So it's like, oh my God, I wish these were all aligned at the top, and I didn't have to do it manually. Boom. Right? Like,
Mhm.
that's all you needed to do. You just select them all and like, align them as whatever. Another really extremely useful thing is not just alignment, but this distribution. What the heck? Uh, distribute vertical spacing. Oh, I think it's based on the where the top of the object is or something like that. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, yeah, it's really hard to see in this example what that just did, but it is good what it did. It's easier to see when the objects are the same. So let's take this square, for example. So let's say I have, these, and these two are aligned right, these aren't. Like, I can literally say, oh, this should be the top and this should be where the bottom is, and just select them all and be like, yo, vertically distribute them so that the spacing is identical, and I just have to do it with a click of a button. Boom. And same thing works vertically, like this, like, oh, let's say I want to keep these heights, but I want them to be distributed vertically correctly. So like, boom, now they're vertically spaced correctly. And yeah, just hover over them to read what they do. Like this will make it middle. These two do the same thing right now because they're the same height, but you know. So yeah, those extremely useful. Do you have any questions about this?
How did you put it? How did you put a layer over the other again?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Okay. So let's say I have this one and this one. So what do you want me to do?
like cover the red part of the black.
So you can do that a few ways. So right now the red is on top of the black. So you can
Mm,
see it, right? So here it says red is rectangle 18. Like whenever you select a component, you can see which one it is in this. It's kind of like a tree in this view.
mm.
So like you're like, okay, so this rectangle is rectangle 18. This one's rectangle 20. So I want 20 to be on top of 18. So you could literally just drag rectangle 20 on top of 18,
Yeah.
or you could do it with a shortcut. Um, you know, select the one you want to move up or down the stack of layers, and then uh, press left bracket, square bracket, or right square bracket to move it as such. And then, if they're not overlapping, you can move that object beneath, any other object. But these ones don't overlap it, so you don't see their effect. But like, there's like a billion components here. So technically this one is below the other ones right now that I just moved it down. But if I keep going, like I can put it at the bottom, but you just don't
Oh,
notice because it's not overlapping any of them. But if it eventually does, then you'll notice because, it's below them now.
oh, okay. I see.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. Do you have any other questions about it?
Nah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, this was another quick demo on Figma stuff. It also applies to like XD or uh, whatever the other UX things are, but Figma's really good. And yeah, like in any other software, if I did something like copy all of this, it would literally blow up my computer. But because Figma like does everything on their own like probably insanely powerful computers and we just to get a view of it, it's like super quick. I don't know how they do it. It's insane actually. Like how well optimized this is. Yeah. One really like higher level thing that I want to stress when, especially for someone just coming in, not a lot of experience designing, is just copy, copy, copy. It's really important. You might think like, oh, like everything I have to do is like my own original thought and work. Like, no, design is about copying. It's about leveraging current, knowledge. Like a component someone thought about so intricately and so thoroughly before, taking it, making a copy of it, and improving it. And also another thing about copying is that if you're building like, a design for a system like ours, um, copying from a base style guide is really, really fundamental and important to make sure that the design looks really consistent. For example, like, we have our H1s, H2s kind of related to HTML. The point that we have those standards is that, every page will have a consistent size, a hierarchy, like boom, 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 like the one, two, three, like, you would see this first, your eye reads it first, the content flows really straightforwardly. Maybe we don't use this one, so we should never use it in any other page. But basically, when you're designing, you want to, see the precedent. Like, for example, in this page, we see, okay, the highest level of hierarchy in this page is this September thing here. This is font 24, bold, etc. So when you're designing a new page, you'll want to look for that. I think this one's 24, and this one's 34. This one's 24. So yeah, so the person who did this based it on um, this specific item in the style guide. So this is vitally important to making a really consistent feeling website because every component should look like it belongs to a template, and it just makes it really easy for the reader to understand. Like, for example, we could have a million different ways of designing this input form, and they can all be equally valid. But if we used like 5 different designs and different colors, then it would look really off in the website. It would be very confusing and obscuring for the user to understand the meaning encoded into it because there might not be any. Like, why should these have different colors? Maybe they should, and maybe there should be a reason for it. But if we're doing like different forms, for example, and we already have one color and there's no reason for it to mean something else, then we should keep it the same so that it's really easy to understand. The user has already encoded that meaning into the brain, like, oh, this is what a form looks like. I'm at a new form. I need to input information there. And yeah, like, oh, this is how a form currently looks like. Well, let's base, other forms off that. So like, it has a background, there's like shadow, the buttons look like so and so. So yeah, like you can literally just copy it and then start working from there, change it, delete stuff, change the content of it. Maybe the form, the field is bigger, maybe it's a larger text box, the titles are different, the content is different, but the fundamental template should be the same so that it's consistent across the website and it feels like a consistent user experience. So yeah, that's just my little spiel on how to approach, making new stuff in a system where there's already a bunch of stuff made. And yeah, hit me up with any questions if you have any. Yeah, like these are things that Jenkins pulled up from like a standard material UI style guide, and yeah, they're all here, ready to be used. Have at it. It's very important that we make the design feel consistent. Like we have the style guide for colors here, and we can like make a button, and then we can say like, oh, we want it to have like stand out in a certain way, but also be consistent with the website. So what do? We go like here. Wait, what? I want to change the color, man. You know what? I'm just gonna select the inner object, the background. So here's the color. I just select color I want. Now it's like this. But, this is darker and white, sorry, not white. This button needs to pop out a bit more. They're both kind of dark. They're not like blending into each other. That's bad. Like, so let's, pick the lighter color. Boom. It stands out and it's popping. And that's good because that's how these are designed. But this one has a darker one because the background's lighter, etc., etc. Yeah, so that's just my quick demo of how to go about making new stuff and like how to use the style guide. And yes, please do copy. It is important, and every good designer will tell you that um, they copy stuff. Like you can go on Amazon or on another website, see how they do things, see how like they do hierarchy of text. Like here, boom, this is the first thing I see, and then I read this. It's like this reads like a whisper, and this reads like it's shouting at me, and there's a place for both. And the 1-2 punch of the two together is what makes it a good experience. This is a very simple example, but yeah, like that's kind of how I would approach it. Approach it like hierarchy. Like, what do you want them to see first? For example, we go to the monthly hospital record page. What do we want them to see first? We want them to know they're on the monthly hospital record page. So, boom, that's in your face. Um, yeah. So think of it as like sort of a tree. The top of the tree is like really big, and you want it to be noticeable, and then you kind of go into the details. This could be like level 1 of hierarchy. Overview, movement, duration, slightly bigger. Level 2, glanceable. And then these are like the lowest level in this hierarchy of visual communication. Oh, well, not forget the buttons, but like they're almost like a entirely separate thing, but um, they also have their own hierarchy in that they're colored, they have a different text size, and location matters. Another design thing would be like F pattern, the standard F pattern. Think of when you look at a web page, think of a letter F. The top right is the most valuable because that's where people look the most often. So that tends to be the top is the most important thing, top left is the most important thing, and then as you go down, it gets less and less important. Not to say that those things aren't important, it's just that the top left, communicates the page, and the rest communicate like more granular things about the page via visual hierarchy. and the content is filled in that way. For example, in these very um, unique and interesting components, like for example, this one, the hierarchy, this picture, it's very dark. It's a nice big, like, if you blur your eyes, this is the heaviest, blackest thing on the screen. So this is what would draw your eye first. This is the next biggest text, so it's right next to the next biggest thing. So yeah, like this, then this, and then you slowly trickle down your attention into the details that is contained within the idea of this object, where you associate this with this. So yeah, like all of these examples, you can clearly see the hierarchy: one, two, three, one, two, three, etc. So when you're designing stuff, try to keep that in mind. That's very important. What Make sure what you want the user to see first is the biggest or the most colorful, or there's many ways to do attention drawing, but the fundamental thing is like thinking of it in terms of layers.